So welcome back to the David Cerebral Palsy and Fitness Podcast. I'm here with David Blodgett. He's actually a fitness enthusiast and recovering from alcohol addiction. We're going to talk about a little bit. We're going to share his story, uh, his time, growing up, how he faced that obstacle, and how he overcame it, and a whole lot more. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it, man. Let's do this again, brother.
Yeah, we had a little for those listening right now, we had a little malfunction with our audio, so that was pretty funny.
all good. We're taken care of now.
Yep, we are, and it just happens. It's a part of the podcasting world, or anything you're doing on YouTube. Things are bound to happen, and we just have to laugh it off sometimes.
Yeah, just go with the flow. Make it happen.
Exactly, brother. So, again, welcome. It's truly an honor for you to be on here. And you shared with me that currently, right now, you're 17 months sober. So tell me about that. How did you get to that point?
To be honest with you, I dealt with alcoholism, drug addiction, and I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at a teenage age. So I've dealt with that for over 27 years. I didn't really drink or drug in middle school, or high. The first time I drank alcohol was in ninth grade, and it was at a freshman welcome to high school party. And I drank my first beer, and I ended up getting drunk and got sick the next day. And I didn't touch alcohol again until my senior year of high school. I was like, that wasn't for me. I didn't like it. But my senior year of high school, I already signed up for the Marines. So I knew as soon as I graduated high school, that next month after I graduated, I was going into the military. So I was like, I'm going to have some fun this year. I've got 8 months until I'm in the military. So I'm going to go to some parties. I'm going to have some fun. So I started going to parties and started drinking some alcohol. And as soon as I drank alcohol, I was like, well, what else is here at the party? Started smoking pot, started doing LSD, mushrooms,
Oh,
pain medicine. Actually, there was PCP around at that time. I started smoking PCP. But it all stemmed from getting some alcohol in my system. And once I put the alcohol in my system, it was a free reign to whatever else was at the party I was going to do. I didn't care. My wall was down, and I was open to try anything and do anything. And at that time, at the age of 18, I just thought it was a phase, because I'm like, you know what? I'm going in the military. Let me have some fun. Let me get it out of my system. Now, when I graduated and I went into boot camp, the drugs did stop. It completely ended because I was in the military now. I got drug tested. Once I graduated boot camp and we got stationed at our base, I was at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. As soon as we got done for the day at 4 o'clock, we went to the bars. We went to the strip clubs. We hung out with our buddies, and it wasn't frowned upon. We're 18, 19, 20-year-old young men, and the bars around the bases, their motto was, if you're old enough to take a bullet for the country, you're old enough to have a cold beer. So they would serve us without question. And we would see our sergeants at these same bars. And like I said, we're 18, 19, 20-year-old men, and these guys are in their 30s. And we're looking up to these guys. They're training us. And they would just be like, make sure you're up at 3:30 at formation, ready to go running and do our thing. They didn't try to discourage us from drinking or going out or having a good time. It was almost as if it was kind of expected of us to train hard and party hard and still keep going. So it wasn't deterred whatsoever. After I got out, oh, and while I was in the service, my unit got deployed to Somalia for 6 months. Now, this was after Desert Storm. This was after a war. So I didn't particularly one-on-one have to shoot anybody, or nobody shot at me, but we were there as a peacekeeping mission. We were there to clean up the ramifications of war. So I got to see exactly what war does to a
wow.
country, to the people, dead bodies, the whole. I mean, I saw everything, and I didn't at first think it affected me. It wasn't until I got out and I was discharged and I got home. I'm not gonna lie. The first month I got home was awesome. I was like, man, I don't have to get up at 3:30 in the morning. I don't have to run 4 miles today. I don't have to wear a certain uniform. I don't have to say yes or no, ma'am.
Hmm.
Like, it was kind of like, oh man, I'm out. The second month I was home, it was kind of an oh shit factor. I was like, I got to get a job. I got to help my mom with some bills because I moved back in my mom's house. I got to get a car. Like, I got to find something else because I'm no
Yeah.
longer in the military. The third month I was home, I got severely depressed. I started drinking more. I was drinking every day, regardless whether I was in the Marines or out, but I started drinking more. I stopped showering. I stopped shaving. I didn't want to leave my bedroom. I fell into a major, major depression.
Wow.
And I found myself one day, I went into my stepfather's armoire and I grabbed his gun and I sat it on my lap. And I was sitting there looking at it and I was contemplating using it. I called my girlfriend at the time that I was dating and I told her what was going on. And within 5 minutes, she was at my house. She took the gun from me and put it back in my stepfather's armoire. When my mom got home from work, I told her I was severely depressed. Something was going on. I did not tell her I just had my stepfather's gun in my lap because she would have freaked out. She would have had me committed, and I wasn't trying
Right.
to get put away. But I did tell her I was severely depressed. Something was going on. So she made some appointments for me with some doctors. I got in to see some doctors, and that's when they confirmed and re-diagnosed me with bipolar 1 manic depressive disorder. Now, their solution to that was, let's get you on some medicine, which works if you're not using drugs and alcohol. So they
Exactly.
start, right. So they start putting me on this medicine, and they could never figure out why this medicine wasn't working. No matter if they upped the dosages or they added another medicine or they stopped those medicines and put me on 2 or 3 other ones, they never could pinpoint why these medicines weren't working. And it was honestly because I was not being honest with the doctors who were treating me, that I was smoking pot, I was drinking alcohol, I was taking pain pills whenever I could get a chance to get them. I wasn't being honest with doctors. So therefore, they couldn't physically put a finger on why these medicines weren't working. And I want people to know.
Oh, can you hear me? Oh no. We we were I guess we were you were sharing about how you were severely depressed, and I think we're on the part where you mentioned how you had the gun. They took the gun from you, and I guess that's when they were trying to eventually get you to get on the right path, help you get help.
Yeah, absolutely. My girlfriend took the gun from me. I told my mom that I was severely depressed, so she made some doctor's appointments. Go to the doctors, and they start putting me on medication. Now, what I want to tell people is, when you have a mental illness or a physical ailment and they try to put you on these medications, you have to be honest with your doctors.
You
If
have
you're
to with everything.
if you're drinking alcohol or you're doing drugs, you must tell your doctors, because they will not be able to properly pinpoint the amount of medication to give you, what type of medication to give you, what's properly going on, because you have drugs and alcohol in your system. If you are using drugs and alcohol, regardless, always be honest with your doctors. It will help them to help you a lot more. I was not honest. I didn't tell them I was drinking. I didn't tell them I was doing drugs. I didn't indulge that to the doctor, so they could never figure out why these medicines weren't working for me. So they would always mix the dosages. They would up the milligrams. Okay, these two aren't working. Let's try these two. Okay, well, two of them aren't working. Let's try three of them. And they never could really figure out why these medicines weren't working.
You know, you also have to think that it could have been the fact that I guess deep down inside, you were afraid to admit that you were dealing with it, and you're like, I don't I can't because if I admit, then, you know, I don't know what to I don't know what I should do. You know, you're probably scared out of your mind, you're probably nervous. You felt all these emotions and you're like, if I'm not honest, you know, things are gonna get a lot worse. So I have to, you know,
That is a really great point that nobody's ever said to me before, and that is 100% true. I wasn't ready to admit that I was drinking and drugging because I didn't want to stop drinking and drugging.
the reason I know that is because I work with at-risk youth, and a lot of these kids that I work with are 13, 14-year olds. Some of them have their home life is a wreck. I've had students that are in the juvenile detention system, and some of them are like and on that path. And when I talk to them, they're like, "Oh, everything's fine, everything's okay." And I'm like, "Dude," and I apologize for the language. I'm like, "Cut the shit. Just be honest with me. Just tell me the truth. You know, just you and me. I'm here to help you. You know, it's just, you know." And of course, I try not to cuss. I don't cuss in front of them, but you know, it's like, dude, like I'm here as your advocate and as your mentor to help you get in the right path. And if you're not honest with me, I can't help you.
Yeah, and I do believe a lot of the times we are scared to admit it. You know,
Exactly.
regardless of our age, we're scared to admit that there's something going on, and we also feel ashamed at the fact that there's something going on. We feel alone. We feel that there's no possible way that anybody could know what we're going through, and it's all of these factors that come in that we don't want to admit that there's something wrong, and we don't want to admit that we need help when that is so farthest from the truth. That the more that we share what we're going through, the more that we ask for help, the more people we can help. It,
Exactly.
it's a snowball effect. I really didn't when I got to rehab. I really didn't want to share my story. I'm looking at 60 people in this little conference room, and everybody's raising their hand and sharing their story. I'm like, I'm not comfortable doing that. I don't want to do that right now. And the guy sitting next to me, we had our own little group of like 10 of us that would meet after the meetings, and we got to know each other. And he's like, Tim, he's like, you told me your story. It's amazing. He's like, share. And I'm like, I can't do it, man. I was like, I don't want to share in front of all these people. He's like, Tim, I'm telling you, get the courage up and just share your story. You never know who's in this meeting that your story could help that day. He's like, share it. I want you to share. And the last week I was in rehab, I finally shared my story. And the reaction I got was not what I thought was in my head. I had talked up, oh my God, they're going to not want it. They're not going to want to hear it. They're going to, say some negative stuff. And it was so positive. People came up to me afterwards and said, thank you for sharing my story. I had similar things in my life happen to me that correlated with your story. So I finally got over that feeling of discomfort of sharing my story. I realized that by me sharing, I could possibly help one more person, and that one more person could possibly help one more person, and so forth. And as I got recovered and I'm learning the steps and traditions, I realized we help each other. One hand helps the other, and then we help other people. The more that we can do that, the closer we can get to not seeing as many people die from addiction, mental illness, suicide. Um,
Right.
it, it, I finally found my purpose. I was lost for 27 years with the mental illness, the drug addiction, and the alcoholism. I felt alone. I felt ashamed. I was scared. I had anxiety, panic attacks, and I was in a prison that was all up in my head. I was in my own prison when all along I was the one holding the key. I had the key this entire time, and it was to open up my mind and to allow people to come into my life, allow me to share my story, allow me to get over that shame and guilt and despair, and finally deal with my past and to overcome my adversary and what I have gone through for 27 years. I didn't think anybody would understand, and boy was I wrong. I'm so glad I was wrong.
Sometimes it takes that one step for people to see what you're trying to do, and also, it's always good to feel it's good to feel wrong sometimes. You doubt yourself, but once you get that over that step, everything else is smooth sailing.
Oh, it's incredible. I was afraid of change. You know what I mean? I was afraid of change. I thought I liked my own little bubble that I lived in, but in fact, change is what makes us grow.
Exactly.
Change is what helps us learn and become a better person. And now I have changed my life through diet and fitness. When I was growing up, I told you in the beginning, I don't know if we were recording. My mom was a professional bodybuilder growing up. My uncle was Mr. Universe 3 times in a row. My cousin was I live in Baltimore, Maryland. He was Mr. Maryland a couple years, and I grew up around these people who were extremely fit, ate well, exercised. Looked incredible. I mean, they straight up looked like incredible human beings, and I always looked up to that. But drugs and alcohol and my mental illness always got in the way. I would go to the gym, I would work out, I would eat right for a while. I wouldn't stick with it. I wouldn't have the consistency. I wouldn't have the dedication. I wouldn't have the mindset to continue. It wasn't until I finally got sober and went to rehab and my mindset changed. I'll share a story how that changed. And it was something that I've never experienced before in my life, and I truly believe it saved my life. 2 days before prior going to rehab, my wife had kicked me out of my house.
Oh,
I had just wrecked my brand new truck twice in one day. The, I was leaving the liquor store. I just picked up my 10 bottles of Fireball miniatures, and I was leaving the liquor store and I hit something. I had no idea what I hit. And I get home, I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning and not remembering that I hit something the night before. And I tell my wife, I'm going to go get milk and water. And she's like, how are you going to do that? I said, in my truck in the driveway. And she says, go look at your truck. So I go outside, my right front passenger tire's hanging off the rim. My
holy moly.
side mirror is completely gone. And she looks out and she says, you have no idea what you hit last night, do you? And I said, no, I don't. She says, you could have killed somebody. You could have killed yourself. You have to leave. I don't want you here anymore. Go figure this out, but you can't stay here anymore. So I call AAA. They come. They put a spare tire on my truck, and I call my buddy, and I'm like, "Hey, man, my wife just kicked me out. Can I please come stay to your house for like 2 or 3 days? Let things calm down, and in a couple of days, I can go back home." So he tells me, "Sure, man, come to my house. You can hang out." So I go to his house, and his bright idea for the day was, "Well, your wife just kicked you out. You can't go home. We might as well go to the bar." So I'm like, sounds like a plan to
Oh,
me.
man.
So we go to the bar. I drink some more. As I'm leaving the bar, less than 24 hours later, I rear end somebody at a red light. And I get out and
Ooh,
I'm looking at the guy's truck, and he had one of those tow hitches on his truck. So his truck was fine.
ooh,
Now my front bumper is V'd in. It's completely V'd in.
wow.
And I look at the guy and I said, your truck's okay. You're okay. I'm out of here. And I slapped him on his back and I got in my truck and I took off. I get back to my friend's house and I'm just completely lost. I'm like, I can't stay here, man. I got to go be by myself. So I go to a park and ride where people park their cars and catch a train and go to work for the day. And I'm sitting in this parking lot and I'm drinking and I turn my phone off for 48 hours. And I'm drinking and passing out, and drinking and passing out, and drinking and passing out. And after 48 hours, I turn my phone on at 7 after 10 in the morning. At 9 after 10, 2 minutes later, the phone rings, and it's my childhood friend Brandon Novak, and he's like, "Lodging, what the f are you doing?" And I said, "I'm drunk, I'm cold, I'm hungry, and I'm tired." And he says, "Good, that's what you need." He said, "I got a plane ticket set for you this evening. You're going to go down to Banyan Treatment Center in West Palm Beach, Florida, and you're going to go get help." And I'm like, "Okay, man, okay." He's like, "Tim," he said, "promise me you'll get on that plane." He says, "Matter of fact, call me when you pass security. I want to make sure you're getting on that plane. You're not going to catch a cab and leave the airport." So I hang up the phone. My wife calls like 5 minutes later, and she says, "Hey, I just got off the phone with Brandon. Can you please come home, take a shower, pack your bags, try to eat something, and maybe take a nap?" I had about 4 to 5 hours before the plane left. So I go home, I take a shower, I pack my bags. I couldn't eat. My anxiety's through the roof. I'm panicking. My mind's racing a million miles a minute. I'm like, "Oh my God, I got to go to rehab." Like, how did I let my life get this bad to where now I've got to go to rehab? And I'm just thinking about all the crap that I've done to my family, my wife, my mom, how many jobs I've lost because of my mental illness and addiction. And I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and my addiction grabs me by the hand and walks me to the basement of my home, tells me to throw a rope around my neck and stand on a bucket and end the pain.
Wow.
So I go into the corner of the basement, and I throw a rope around the rafter of my basement, and I throw it around my neck, and I get up on the bucket, and my pain tells me to end it. It says, "End the pain." And about 2 minutes goes by, and my wife realizes I'm not in my bedroom anymore. And she comes walking down the basement steps, and she sees me in the corner of the basement in the dark with a rope around my neck, standing on a bucket, hysterically crying. And she says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I can't do it. I can't go. I just want the pain to stop. I can't do this." And she just looks at me and she says, "Tim, do you know what this will do to your girls? Please, please get down. Everything is going to be all right. Just please get down." And I sat there for about a minute, and I took the rope off my neck, and I fell to the floor, and I cried for about 10 minutes. And I called my friend, and I said, "Hey, buddy, I got to go, man." And I was like, "This is going to kill me, and I need help. I got to go." And all he says is, "I'm proud of you. I love you. Call me when you pass security." So my mom picks me up and takes me to the airport. I get to the airport, and I pass security, and I call my buddy. I'm like, "Hey, bud, I'm past security. I got about 35 minutes till they board the plane. I just want to let you know I'm getting on the plane." And he says, "I love you. I'm proud of you. You're about to get back everything that you've lost times 10." And he hangs up the phone. As I go to sit down in the seat, waiting for them to call me to board the plane, as I sit down in that seat, I get this overwhelming feeling of hope that came over my entire body. It was a warm blanket feeling that engulfed my entire body. All my panic, my worry, my anxiety, my depression, and my addiction left my body all at the same time. And this voice that I've never heard in my entire life, it was a calming, motherly voice, popped in my head and simply said, "Everything's going to be all right." I had a calmness come over my body that I've never felt before in my life. And finally, at 44 years old, I finally knew at that moment in my life, I was right where I needed to be, right on the path that I needed to get to be, and to get the help that I finally needed to save my life. And it truly changed me that day, sitting in that airport when that experience happened. I'm coming up on 17 months clean and sober from all mind alternating chemicals. And I have not once, not one single day, not 1 hour, not 1 minute, have thought about doing drugs or alcohol. I haven't had a craving. I haven't had an inclination of even thinking about doing it. I truly believe that day at that airport, something happened to me. Some spiritual awakening happened to me at that airport, and it lifted my addiction from my body. Now, when I did get to the rehab center and they took all the tests, my blood work, my heart, and all that stuff. My blood pressure was 167 over 145.
Wow.
I was about to have a stroke. The doctor looked at me and said, "You're on the verge of having a stroke." Um, my liver and kidney enzymes were 4 times what they should be, the 4 times the levels. And he looks at me and he says, "Tim, if you were to continue to drink like this for the next year, year and a half, you would not make it to 47 years old." He said, "Your body's starting to shut down." He said, "Thankfully, you came in time to where the damage that's done to your kidneys and liver can be reversed. But you've came just in the nick of time. If you would have kept doing it for the next couple of months, it would have got to the point where the damage would have been irreversible, and eventually you would have died of alcoholism." That wasn't a coincidence that my buddy called me that day. It wasn't a coincidence that I had that spiritual awakening in the airport, that I was on that plane and in that rehab the same exact day that the doctor told me if I were to continue to do drugs and alcohol, I would have been dead within 2 years. I truly believe that it happened to me for a reason, you know, and I didn't dwell on why did I have to suffer for 27 years. It finally dawned on me that it wasn't happening to me, it was happening for me. I had to experience that long of a journey of addiction and mental illness in order for me to have the experience to be able to share where I came from and what we can do to progress and move forward in our life, to change that page in that book and start a brand new chapter in your life, regardless of how long you've suffered, regardless of how old you are. It is never too late to start a brand
Yeah,
new life. I,
exactly. You hit
I
it right in the right. You hit the nail right in the coffin there.
yeah, it's I've changed my life mentally, spiritually, and physically. I never believed in a higher power before. I really, truly didn't. I'm gonna be honest with you. Until I had that experience at the airport, and throughout my sobriety, I've had little inclinations of things that I just couldn't explain. And finally, I just put my hands up. I'm like, you know what? These aren't coincidences anymore. Things are happening to me, around me, for me that I can't explain. Something's going on. So I started to believe in something other than myself, whatever that may be for anybody. It doesn't have to be Jesus Christ. It doesn't have to be Allah, Buddha. I believe in a spiritual being in the universe that is other than myself. You know what I mean? I don't have a name for it. I just know that there's got to be something else out there that's looking over us, and that helps me through my days every day to get to the next level. I'm now competing for my very first bodybuilding show coming in November on stage. I just got third place in the
Wow.
Muscle and Fitness magazine competition last month.
Congratulations, brother.
Thank you. And I'm not gonna lie to you. I was sad for a day or two that I got third place. Right? I'm like, man, I'm busting my butt. I ate what I had to do. My pictures were incredible. First place was the cover of the magazine, 2 pages spread inside, and $25,000. Right?
Wow.
So I'm like, that would have been life changing. I get third place, and I'm sad for the next day. And I get a phone call from my mom. And she's like, "How you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm kind of sad." She's like, "Tim," she's like, "Look how far you've came."
Yeah, seriously. Like,
She's she's like, "Last March you wanted to commit suicide and you didn't want to live." She's like, "You just got third place in a um, international competition." She's like, "How amazing is that?" She said, "Son, I love you. I'm so proud of you. Just keep pushing forward. And in my eyes, you did win, son. You're the winner." And that made me feel so good. It really, truly did. Coming from how dark of a mindset that I had, to finally having relationships with my family again, to the point where they're truly love what I'm doing, and they respect me and they back me. Um, it's a miracle. To be honest with you, it's quite a miracle that I am still alive, and I'm grateful for every single day that I wake up and have the ability to have another day on this earth.
Hey man, like there's a lot of people out there in this world that are struggling, but honestly, that journey starts with you wanting to change, and you have to, and like we talked earlier, it's hard to admit when you're dealing with a situation and a struggle, but once you admit it, that's when the wheels start to turn and things slowly start to get better. And for you, the fact that you said it was last March that you were
Uh, March 5th, 2021. So, like I said, I'm coming up on 17 months. So, yeah.
so from March of 2021 to now, that's incredible, man. That the fact that you've overcome so much, and you need to have this in a book, man. You need to write a book. I'm serious. Like you got to like write a book about it. Keep on sharing it, man. I'm impressed.
Uh, I mean, I turned it off. How did you do that? Not power off this. I don't turn off my car. Really?
There you are.
No worries, man. It's all good.
That's like the second time. There we
Right.
go.
We're good, man.
Yeah, it went black on me. I'm like, what the heck is going on again? Hey, nothing you can't edit, right?
Yeah, we're good, man. It's I like to show people the side of podcasting that it's like things happen. So it's not all perfect. It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, well, when you're shooting live, this is what people need to see. This is real life.
Exactly, man. So like I was saying earlier, I'm definitely impressed with your journey, and if you can, you got to see if you can write a book about it, keep on sharing it out there, you know.
Yeah, it's funny because you're like the fifth or sixth person to tell me I need to put it in pages. And I just did a live interview last night with a gentleman named Adam who runs Recovered on Purpose, and he wrote a book. And I'm asking him, what do I do? He's like, Tim. He's like, just start writing your story. He's like, just start putting pen to paper, start writing it. He's like, until you're finished. He's like, I can't tell you anything other than just start putting pen to paper. And when you think it's finished, he's like, you let me know. He's like, and I'll show you what publishing place I went to and what I had to do. He's like, but I can't do any of that until you have ink on paper. He's like, to just start doing it.
Oh, anyways, yeah. So that's awesome, man. Like you got to, and keep on pushing, moving forward. What are what are some things you would tell you the I guess people that are listening right now that are kind of like battling that brink of what do I have to do to change, and then can I do it? Is it when is the right time to do it?
The right time. Okay, so there's never a right time. There's not like Monday at 8 a.m. to change. You know what I mean? There's not a specific time. If you're asking yourself when I should change or if I should change, you have just answered your own question. You already know the answer. If you have that in your mind, man, I need to change something, then you already know that you have to change something. The hardest thing is now putting your feet to the concrete and actually doing it. Mindset is huge. They years ago, they could have taken me to a rehab. They could have booked me planes. They could have done all this stuff. They could have drove me and opened the front door to the rehab. But if I wasn't ready to get the help and receive the help I needed, none of it would have mattered. I finally had enough. I finally was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I didn't want to live that way anymore. I wanted a new life. So I did what I had to do. I dug deep. I became dedicated. I started being consistent with my recovery, consistent with my workouts, consistent with my diet. You can't just go to the gym and at the end of the gym, at the end of the day, go look in the mirror and see a change. That doesn't happen. You can't do that for a week and see a change. But if you consistently do it over and over and over again for a couple months, I don't know what exact day it's going to happen, but you'll look at yourself in the mirror one day and be like, wow, I see a difference. It's consistency, mindset, dedication, determination. And you cannot let anybody tell you you can't do it. You can do anything that you put your mind to. Just like your parents would tell you, you can become anything you want, son. You can become anything you want, daughter. You just got to put your mind to it. That is not a bunch of crap. If you truly believe you can do it, don't let anything stand in your way. Make it happen. Do what you have to do to make it happen and become who you always meant to be. You know, the probability of us being born is 1 in 400 trillion. So the fact that David was born, the fact that Tim was born, were already miracles. We're already something that the odds are so far against us that could not even possibly be imagined. 1 in 400 trillion that you and I were born, these specific people. We're all special. We all have gifts and we all have a purpose being here. Go out and get it. Go out and get it.
That's right, man. You gotta. It's out there. The potential is limitless. Is what I like to tell people. Your potential is limitless. You just have to get out there and unlock it.
That's it. You're only limited to what you tell yourself in your mind.
So, where can people find you to kind of know more about you and just follow your journey?
My biggest page is on Instagram, and it's at tlodgen, at TLODGEN, and I post all my fitness pictures, my before and after pictures. I post all my recovery podcasts, and my messages are completely open. So if there's anybody out there that has questions on fitness, diet, overcoming mental illness, addiction, please directly message me. I answer every message that is in my inbox, and I'll try to help you as much as possible. I'll try to stir you in the right direction to get the help needed. If I can't directly help you, I'll answer as many questions as I can to hopefully help you in whatever problem is that you're going through at that time. I'm a completely open book. I don't cut corners. I'll tell you the truth, and sometimes the truth hurts.
Oh yeah.
But we need to hear the truth sometimes in order for it to give us a little kick in the butt.
Yes, we do. And and talking to you right now, you would also be a good substance abuse counselor. Have you ever thought of that since you've gone through the military and they could possibly help you with going back to maybe going to school?
Now, I've this past year, opportunities have gotten pretty crazy for me. I've been in talks with becoming maybe a TEDx speaker that travels the country and talks at different conventions. Um, I've been talking to people about being a health and life coach to help people with their health and fitness and their life coaching. I'm flying out to California in September to speak in front of 300 veterans and first responders
Wow.
about mental health and addiction that this company called, and they're paying for the airfare and the flight. And I mean, the flight and the hotel for me to come out there to speak at this convention. So I'm not limiting myself to what is possible. What I truly want to do and what I ask for every night when I go to sleep is please help me to reach as many people as possible who is suffering with mental illness and addiction in hopes that they know that they're not alone, they can recover, and they can live the life that they've always wanted to. And whatever that is, I want to do. If it's coaching, if it's counseling, if it's speaking in front of children, or going to jails, or going to institutions, or going and speaking to the first responders and military people who are suffering with mental illness or PTSD and addiction. I want to help as many people as possible. So whatever I have to do to make that happen, that's what I truly believe my purpose is now.
Hey, brother, respect. That's for sure. I'm definitely, floored by your story. I'm motivated and very impressed, man. Very impressed for sure. Like, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you, David. And I can tell you, I respect what you're doing. I love it. Keep going. I've read a little bit about you. You're a warrior, brother. You are a true warrior, and the fact that you've never given up and you keep pushing and you keep giving positive out there, you're going to continue to get positive back times 10. And I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Same here with you, for sure. And with that being said, you guys can find this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, every other podcasting outlet out there. And I hope by listening to Tim's journey, it'll help you get that path to start overcoming your mental health, your physical obstacles, or even addiction. So, Tim, thank you again, and until next time. And I appreciate you, brother.
There?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
And like I said, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for being on.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Definitely. And I hope everybody, on a side of humor, I hope everybody enjoys the episode with, all the nicks and knacks and the chaos, as far as our audio. But it happens, right?
It happens. It's part of life, man. And you know what? That's a perfect example of how you deal with it and you move on.
Exactly. Yeah. So, all right, man. So, guys, until next time, see you again.
Take care, David.